Okay. Hi.
Hello. Great, I can hear you.
How are you? How's your day? Sorry, your
Good so
day
far.
started right now.
Just beginning.
Sorry.
Just beginning. Do you have a good day?
Yeah, I had. I was just waiting for 8 p.m. and then it came finally. Okay, let me see. Okay. So, I'm Pronamika and I'm a belly dancer from India. And we have with us today Sami Abu Shames, and he's a Palestinian American musician who studied Arabic music in Cairo and Aleppo, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he also co-founded the group Zikrayat. Zikrayat, am I pronouncing it correctly?
Yeah, Zikrayat.
Zikrayat music, right? It's a dance and music ensemble.
That's right.
Yes, yes, and it has a special focus on special music, mainly from the era music.
That's
Yes.
right.
Okay. And Sami here also contributed towards makamworld.com. It has, if you want to know anything about Makam, that is the right place to go. And he has also recently written a book in 2019, right? Yes?
2019,
Yes,
yes. With Johnny
2019, he has
Faraz,
written a
the
book. Sorry?
yeah, with Johnny, the
Johnny
creator of
Faraz.
Calm World, and I are co-authors of the book Inside Arabic Music.
Okay, okay. So he has written a book with Johnny Faraz, Inside Arabic Music. And yes, I just downloaded the Kindle version because it's not available. I could not place order for the paperback, so I downloaded the Kindle version.
Awesome.
I've just started reading it, and I'm telling you, it's nice, and I'm getting to know a lot of things from it.
Wonderful.
Okay, okay. So, Sami, tell us something about you, your music journey, how it started. And I know that you learned it from Cairo and Aleppo, which you have told me. But how did you get involved in this Arabic music world, and what attracted you about it?
Sure. So I grew up in the U.S. Like I said, I'm Palestinian American, and
Mhm.
I studied Western classical music. I didn't actually know about Arabic music very much as
Oh,
a child. So it's a music that I really got attracted to in 1998 when I was in my 1997, I would say, when I was in my senior year of college. And I met
okay.
Simone Shaheen, the violinist, Palestinian violinist here in New York. And I was just very attracted to the sound and interested in learning more about my own background and my own cultural heritage.
Okay.
I didn't grow up speaking Arabic as a child because my father wanted to assimilate. So there was a journey for me in my mid-20s to go and study Arabic in Egypt, go and learn Arabic music. So it was in Egypt that I went in 2001 to study both the Arabic language and then to study Arabic violin with Alfred Gamil, who's a really fantastic teacher. I would say he really transformed my approach to music and helped me appreciate the value of oral tradition and of learning by ear. And that totally transformed me. So then I spent a year studying with him in Cairo, and then I went to Aleppo for a half a year. And Cairo and Aleppo are really two of the major centers of Arabic music. So then
Okay.
I came back and I
Someone is
started performing.
asking. Okay, someone is
Oh,
asking
where in
where in
Palestine am I
Palestine?
raised? Yeah, my
Yes.
father is from Jaffa, Palestine, but is a refugee in 48 to Lebanon and came to the US. So I was born in the US. So in then I got married to a belly dancer, and my wife and I founded Zikrayat in 2005 out of a shared interest in Egyptian music and dance. Specifically that golden age repertory. I was always interested in the more um, heavy classical repertory, and my wife introduced me to a lot of really great belly dance repertory. And so we had this vision of presenting music and dance together to really elevate the way that dance is presented, and also to there's a kind of a snobby divide sometimes between Arabic musicians who are doing tarab music and dance. And I was, we were attracted to some of these films with like Farid and Sami, and some of Farid al-Atrash's best songs are, and most classical serious songs then will be in the same movie as a very light dance piece. And that contrast was something that really appealed to us. So
Okay.
that's how Zikrayat started. And then I've been friends with Johnny since 2000. And he and I, sort of have a shared interest in oral tradition,
He is also a part of Zikraya, right?
and he also plays with Zikrayat, yeah, as a Rick player in the ensemble. Um, and he and I both played with a bunch of other musicians in New York over, like once I came back from Cairo and Aleppo in 2003, was just playing with a bunch of musicians in New York. Really, so New York City, where I live now, is really where I really developed myself as a musician in the early 2000s. And Johnny's been part of it the whole time. So he and I have been talking about music, talking about maqam, talking about what frustrates us about music theory. And so he developed Maqam World website at that time, and I made violin samples for him, and we talked about the scales. And then I made my own website, Maqam Lessons, starting in 2008, 2009, and upgraded in 2012. And he started writing the book in 2008. And we were still in conversation about Maqam, and then he invited me in 2013 to join him as a consultant. And then my role expanded because we decided with the book both to try to make a presentation that was very accessible, so easy to read, not academic in language, really intended at beginners and intended to be a textbook. And
Okay.
I also had the vision of really changing the way people thought about maqam theory. And so we tried to meld those two approaches with my view of maqam that's somewhat new, at least in theory, and his desire to be accessible. And that's really what made the magic of the book come together. So we worked together on the book between 2013 and 2018 is when we really had the final proofs, and then it was
It's a
released.
long journey, 2030
Yeah,
and
it's a long
30.
journey. Yeah, and really it's the journey of our collaboration starts in 2000, 2001 when he did his first Maqam World
2001, my
website.
God.
So it's like we really been working together for 2 decades on, conversation with each other about music.
Mhm.
So that's my background of how I am where I am.
I think it's a very good thing that you have written that book. Like me as a non-Arabic dancer, I can understand that appreciating Arabic music is a rather gradual process, in my
Yeah.
experience. Okay, so it took me quite time and repeated exposure to get a good feeling for the rhythms, and yeah, now I like it actually, and that's how I got developed my interest in this Arabic music. And as a belly dancer, like I need to know. I feel like I need to know about it. But yeah, of course, for me, it's still a continuing journey, and I feel like there's a lot and lot ahead of me to learn about maqamat.
It's a continuing journey for me as well. I view
I,
it as a journey partly because I learned the music starting as an adult in my 20s. And so not having learned it as a child, I've been I feel like I always have more to learn. I feel like I'm always growing and trying to get more out of the music. And I'm really interested now. I appreciate you talking about your journey to kind of get to know it more, because I think that's true of any really deep cultural tradition, whether it's music or dance. I have like a I have a real curiosity, that maybe because I want to ask you a few questions too. But I'm really curious about the shared interest between India and the Arab world of Indian music and Arabic music. I love Indian music. I've worked with Indian vocalist here in New York, Falu Shah, and um, there's cross pollination between Indian and Arabic music that goes back a very long time, obviously for centuries. but also even more recently during the film period, there was cross-pollination between Bollywood and Egyptian film. So I'm really excited to be talking to you
Yes,
because I'm
I
excited
remember
about.
seeing Nadia Gamal in one of the Bollywood films. There is a very famous Bollywood actor. His name is Devanand. Okay,
Mhm.
so one of his film, I forgot the name of the film. The movie, it had Nadia Gamal presenting a beautiful belly dance piece on an Arabic music. It's nice. I remember
Oh
that
wow,
now.
I'd love to hear that. So there's a
I'll
there's a
send you the
famous.
video.
Please do. There's also, so I don't know what the name of the Indian version of the song is, but Kulthum's very famous song Ala Baladil Mahbub from 1935.
Sounds
على
familiar.
بلد
Sing.
المحبوب وديني زاد وجدي والبعد كواني على بلد المحبوب وديني زاد وجدي والبعد كواني. That song from Kulthum, 1935, was covered by Lata Mangeshkar in
Okay.
1951. And I don't know the name of the Indian song, but it was covered, and it was, the maqam was changed a little bit, but the same song basically was sung by Lata Mangeshkar, who heard Kulthum. So that I'm very curious about.
I'm going to search about that in Google.
Yeah. I'll ask Falu what's the name of the song, but so I'm curious because I've just started to see that there's a real belly dance community in India. Um, and
It's
when I was in
it's
Egypt in
growing.
2001, people were watching Bollywood films in Egypt. So I'm curious
Oh,
about the belly dance community in India. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
well, we have a it's huge. Not I won't say it's a small community. It's somewhat between medium to somewhat medium community. Okay, and yes, people are understanding have started understanding about belly dancing, and yes, it's still developing, but we it's vast. It's we have tribal fusion belly dance, then oriental belly dance, and some people are now mixing Bollywood with belly dance. It's called Bolly belly, I guess. Sorry,
Bolly belly.
I didn't. Yes, and yeah, people are developing interest in fusion. Personally, I like oriental more, so I'm more into oriental belly dance. So
Hmm.
the other belly dance I'm still exploring. I have not much idea, but yeah, Oriental belly dance, a lot of people are learning here, and it's huge. The community is huge. Uh, People are interested to know about it and learn what is they are mesmerized by the movements, and people are learning. I can see that people are interested here.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. Also, you said that you learned Western classical. Okay, we're in India. I'm in Bangalore right now. Okay. So, yes, you said that you learned Western classical music at first, right?
Yes, I did as a child. I learned piano and
Okay.
violin as I grew.
So, the shift from here Western classical music to Arabic music, like, it's a, did it create any problem? How did you find any difficulty in the shift from Western to Arabic? It must be different, right? The
It's very different. It's very different. It's very, I mean, I can compare it to what it's like learning a new language as an adult. Um, it's actually a wonderful thing to learn a new kind of music as an adult because when you do that, you're forced to really see how much depth there is to a musical tradition. So when I traveled to Egypt and started studying with Alfred, that's really when I would say I understood how much depth there was to the tradition of music in Egypt from that's carried through oral tradition. Um, and the challenge, I think, for me, like the hardest thing was that, like many people in the West, my approach to music was through music notation and music theory, Western music theory. You know, I had studied Western classical piano since I was 5. And I went to college in math and physics, but I wanted to be a Western composer. So I was studying music theory and notation and composing with notation. So it's actually a very different way of approaching music. It's not just a different kind of music. What the biggest thing for me was the different way of approaching music, realizing that actually learning music by ear gives you much more knowledge and depth than learning it from notation. And that was
What inspired the
what
shift?
inspired the shift. I mean, what inspired the shift, I would say, is that I spent 2 years studying Arabic music through notation and felt like I never got it. That was in the US between, 98 and 2000. And it was like, oh, I'm still not in tune, and I still don't sound like an Arab, right? I'm learning it as a foreigner, even though I'm Palestinian, right? I'm learning it as a foreign music in America and learning it through notation. I never got it. So I kind of realized there was something I was missing. And when I went to Egypt and Alfred was willing to teach me by ear, and I really wanted, so I just went cold turkey. I don't know, in India, folks, cold turkey in the US is like an expression when you quit a habit, you quit cold turkey. Like if you're smoking cigarettes and you're like, okay, I'm never going to smoke again, I quit cold turkey. So anyway, so I quit notation, cold turkey. No more learning by learning songs through notation, forcing myself how to learn by ear. And it's a skill that if you don't have, it takes some time to develop. And I've worked with a lot of students who come to me and don't really know how to learn by ear. And it can take a few years to do that, where, you listen to something and then you're able to imitate it back. Um, and that is kind of,
Quam song,
oh, I see the
song by
song.
Mika.
I'm not sure if that's the one. They're asking if that's song. Anyway, sorry. What just to go back to what I was saying, the
Cultural
process
shift.
takes time, and I have worked with a lot of students on that process. And for me, the process, it took me really the whole year in Cairo. And I was lucky to have a grant to spend a year studying Arabic music and Arabic language in Cairo, and really living there and immersing myself. And that experience of spending a year there, and then I got to spend another half year in Aleppo, Syria in fall of 2002. I actually feel really lucky that I got to go at that time before a lot of the stuff, before the Iraq War started and before the civil war in Syria started.
It was between
So I was
2012, right?
2002 is when I was there, right? But stuff has
2002.
been, I feel lucky that I got there when I did. Um, so anyway, so that experience, I would say the shift is partly that experience, and the shift is also when I came back to the US and I came back to my graduate program. And I started to realize, wow, the knowledge that I just gained through oral tradition, through Alfred in Cairo and 3 teachers in Aleppo, is much deeper than the knowledge that I am learning in the university. It's much deeper than the ethnomusicology knowledge, which still takes a sort of a distanced anthropological approach. And I started to feel that really practice is where the knowledge is. The knowledge is in practice. And the Western approach to putting theory above practice is, for me, became totally wrong. So it was the experience of spending a year and a half in Cairo and Aleppo, then coming back to the US in early 2003, returning to my graduate studies in the US in ethnomusicology and music theory, that I was like, oh, this is way deeper than what I see in front of me here. So that's when I quit the graduate program, but I retained an interest in trying to understand music as a phenomenon, not simply playing it, trying to understand music cognition, did a lot of reading then. And that influenced a lot of my thinking, along with the conversations with Johnny Faraj, and he was very like-minded. So he and I and a bunch of people around us have been really trying to push people to embrace oral tradition. And the more that I spend time teaching people through oral tradition, the more that I find that it benefits students, the more that I'm convinced of the shift, right? Like having devoted time to doing it, and now I'm starting to work with teaching dancers maqam. I've just started that very recently, and I find that approach, it's not an approach that's unique to me, right? I'm just doing the same thing that people have been doing to learn music orally for thousands of years. I repeat a phrase, you repeat a phrase. But that experience for a lot of people is very new. And because I have the Western background, I understand the challenge of like how hard it can be for a beginner to learn by ear if you're not immersed. So I've gotten good at how do you break it down into small pieces and make it digestible for new people. So the more I do it, the more people respond positively, the more that like, so the shift, the quote unquote shift, isn't what happened between 2001 and 2003. The shift is my entire life. The shift is still happening.
Oh, wow. That's quite a journey. Okay. That's interesting, actually. Okay. So, coming to technical terms, since we're using this word maqam a lot, okay. So
Yeah.
here, a lot of people might not be aware of what is maqam. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you can tell us, whoever is a beginner or new to this Arabic music world, if you can tell us a bit about this maqam Arabic music,
Absolutely.
that would be great for our viewers.
Sure. So I would say that, and I don't want to talk without playing music because there's an expression, one of my favorite expressions I used to hear. Talking about music is like dancing about architecture, which apparently can
Nice.
be done. Um, but so maqam is, I'll say a few words first before I demonstrate. So since you're in India, I'll use raga as a comparison. So maqam is a modal music system. That means it is a system that is based on a certain kind of a scale or mode. And it has some similarities with raga and some differences, some important differences. But the use of a variety of different modes, meaning a variety of different kinds of scales, is common between music of the Arab world. The maqam tradition itself includes the music that I'm a practitioner of, the music from Egypt and Syria, that sort of what we call Sharqi music, the Levantine music. The same music that's used, Sharqi means Easter, and the same music that's the music for belly dance. But maqam itself, as a tradition, extends from North Africa through, the Levantine region, through Spain, Iran, Azerbaijan, into Central Asia, and even into Western China. So maqam is a broad way of
General.
thinking about music, way of doing music. So that's kind of what maqam is. But now to get into really what maqam is, I want to demonstrate a little bit. So maqam, I think one of the ways that I'm trying to make it very clear to people is a maqam is a journey through a series of different moods and flavors. So to demonstrate what I mean, if I play a little bit in this mood, I'm in one particular mood. You feel the for me, this mood is very joyous and very proud and very like celebratory in a way. This is maqam rust or jins rust. The jins is the part of the maqam. But now if I change the mood like this, you feel that the mood it's a different place,
Yes,
right?
it has shifted. Yes.
Right? So
Like,
those moods going from one to the other, that's what maqam is. And we have a series of these different moods, and it's the change of mood that is the exciting part of an Arabic song. It's the exciting part of an improvisation when you don't know where is it going to go, and suddenly the mood changes. So if I'm improvising now, right? So if I'm here, right, the mood changes, right? So I'm in this mood, and then suddenly, right back to the original mood. That mood of rust. So I went through three different moods just there. I went from rust, and then I went to the mood of Hijaz. Then I went to the mood of Nahawan. And then I came back down to rust.
The third
Right?
one seemed melancholic to me. Was it a melancholic note?
Which, like the Nahawan?
The third one.
That's the third one.
Yes.
Yeah, it is a little melancholic, I would say that. But again, so here's I try, although I did express what I felt like rust was to me, I often try not to speak what I think the moods are, because sometimes people interpret the moods differently, or they may feel like, oh, this is melancholic, but someone else may feel like this. However, what is universal, what everyone can agree on, is that when the jins changes, and the jins is the particular mood, when the jins changes, there's a change in mood. So the activity of maqam is, even if you think this is melancholic, or you think it's this, someone else feels like it's nostalgic, or someone else feels like it's a little bit whatever you feel and someone else feels differently. When I change it, it's going to feel different. And that contrast, which also can create a certain kind of drama and expectation, that is the heart of maqam. That's why people like maqam. That's what people get excited about. The slight change, the very small change that suddenly creates a total change in mood.
Wonderful. I can feel that mood change. Like first one was joy. I can feel a feeling. I had a feeling of joy when I heard the first one. The second one, I felt like I'm at peace. And the third one, I felt a little melancholic.
That's interesting. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and sometimes on a different day, I'll have a different association with the different ajnas. Like I don't have only one mood association with any given jins. It definitely it has a flavor. And the word jins, so the word jins is interesting in Arabic. Since we're, just so people understand terminology. So we talked about maqam, right? Maqam is the whole system. Maqam is like raga. It's not just a scale, it is a system of melody. Right? Raga is not just a scale, it is a system of melody. So the jins is the part of the maqam, but I want to explain what the word jins means, just because we're using this terminology. And jins, the plural is ajnas. So
what's the plural?
Ajnas. Jins,
okay.
Jins, or Jin Nun Sim, and then ajnas is the plural. So jins is actually an Arabic word that is derived from Greek. The Greek word genus. Genus, which means, anyone who knows biology knows genus, right? Genus, species, right? So genus is a type or kind of something. And the ancient Greeks, who learned music from the ancient Egyptians, that's another story. The ancient Greeks called their flavor of scales, tetrachord means 4 notes. So instead of talking about an 8-note scale, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, it's just do, re, mi, fa, 4 notes. So they talked about four notes as a tetrachord, four notes, but a tetrachord genus, a type, because in one of the notes might be higher, one of the notes might be lower. So that idea that really started with Pythagoras in ancient Greece was then adopted back by the medieval Arabs in the like 8th, 9th, or 10th century. And genus became jins, right?
Oh,
Genus, jins. So jins is the Arabized word of the Greek word genus. And jins in Arabic, it means kind or type more broadly. Like jins is the word used for gender in Arabic. So it's a kind or type of something. So the way that most Arab musicians have used it before I started speaking about it in my way is really to think about the jins mostly as just a scale fragment along the lines of the way ancient Greek music theory thought about the tetrachord four notes. It's just a scale fragment, part of a scale. But as I started to experience jins, I started to recognize, these mood changes are so dramatic that it's really that activity of mood changes that the melodies that are part of the jins are crucial to it. It's not just intonation, it's not just scales. It's what are the melodies for each jins that give that feeling. So for me, I think of jins as more broadly, it's an identity. And as we put it in the book, one of the ways that we use a lot of metaphors, and I have to credit Johnny for really using that approach a lot. We talked about knowing a jins or knowing a mood is like knowing a good friend. Because you can talk about the characteristics, right? You can look at me now and like, oh, this is the guy, Sammy is the guy with the big eyebrows and the big nose and right, and the purple shirt today, right? And maybe you see me the next day and I shaved my head or I grew a beard and I look a little different. And
different.
you might know me by characteristics, but once you start to really know me and I become your friend and we've seen each other many times, you think about anyone you know for a long time, you recognize them immediately like that. You don't think, you don't still think, oh, that's the person who wears glasses and is tall, right? You
The
then recognize
familiarity. You start
familiarity.
getting
And that familiarity, like a friend, is what I try to teach people to understand about jins. It is actually
okay.
that deep familiarity with the jins that you're no longer thinking about, oh, what is the intervals, what are the mood, what are the melodies, but everything comes together in really having that familiar. And that's what it takes time. It just simply takes time to hear the jins over and over again, to get familiar with that mood so you recognize it when it comes back. And so really that's, broadly speaking, that's my goal as an educator of Arabic music, is to just build the oral familiarity with the ejnas, with each jins, because building that, so now I'll play again for you. Right? We've heard this mood again. That's how I started, right? So now anyone who's listening to the video, and you even more, getting used to hearing me more, and now even in this half an hour, our minds are becoming more saturated with the sound of this. And so then the mood becomes saturated, and the more you hear, like you hear that mood again, and then I go to the other mood, right? The Hijaz, the second one. Back to the first mood. So that, like the familiarity of, since we did that earlier in the hour, and then again, the more, my hope for people is that the more that they become familiar with each jins, you start to immediately recognize when the change happens. So like when the change happens between the Rust and the Hijaz, Or actually, I'll do this second one, between the Hijaz and the Nahwan. So if I'm in this mood, I can change just one note and suddenly the mood is going to change, right? So listen for the change, everybody. Hijaz. Right, so as soon as I hit this note, the mood is different. I don't have to play the whole Jins Nahawand to feel the identity of the new Jins. And experienced listeners, like I saw Michael Ibrahim just joined, the amazing director of the Arab Orchestra in in the U.S., the National Arab Orchestra in Detroit. Amazing musician. So like someone like Michael, well, he knows immediately. He doesn't need to be told this is Hijaz and this is Nahawan, right? An experienced listener, someone who's been in the tradition, will hear just one note, and then suddenly the whole world is different. Let me do that again. The right is a different mood.
Yes.
And so my goal as a teacher is to really get people to hear those different moods immediately. And so the series of YouTube lessons that I created, the Maqam lesson series on YouTube, really focuses, most of the lessons are on the Ejnas. So like the first 3 Maqam lessons are about only one jins, are about jins Rast, jins Nahawan, and jins Hijaz, which are so essential to Arabic music, the 3 that I was just playing. And I just started this YouTube series last fall. And I'm really happy when I hear that people are listening to them over and over again, because I'm just giving simple phrases, call and response, for people to imitate back. And then I'm hoping that as people repeat each lesson and just spend time repeating each phrase, it builds that inner familiarity for their ears, and also the muscle memory of using their voices. And that connection between muscle memory and inner ear familiarity will help people to, when they hear maqam, recognize these changes, recognize these moments. And what I would add to that is I was really gratified recently to start working on teaching maqam to dancers, and to try to adapt what I've been doing for the last several years to approach the dance community. A wonderful dancer in Austin, Texas, named April Rose, hosted me for a workshop about 3 weeks ago, I don't remember, a month ago maybe, to my first attempt to teach maqam to dancers. And there are a lot of dancers, some of whom are joining the live, thank you very much, who are in the class, where I'm trying to break it down and actually use dance repertory that dancers know, and try to illustrate, oh yeah, this, we did something, I compared an Kulthum song with a Shabi song, to show that the same mood changes are there, from the golden era to Shabi music. And that workshop, thank you for attending the workshop. I'm actually working now on trying to adapt the workshop with a few different dancers, to bring it to different dance audiences. So I'm in conversation with someone to do a bilingual English-Spanish one with a dancer in Colombia. One of the dancers here, Barbara, I'm talking with her about doing it in bilingual Brazilian English, for a Brazilian audience. Hopefully we'll do that. And I actually had a conversation with another dancer, another belly dancer from India, Damini Sahay, I think. I'm not quite sure to pronounce her name, but we're talking about doing one also for the Indian market. So I'm looking to try to. I'm really happy because I've heard I'm just so happy when I see that there's real interest in understanding this music in the dance community, and it just feels very gratifying that people want to know. So I'm really excited to keep teaching this stuff to dancers.
Definitely. It's very wonderful. Like, and it's very deep. And actually, when I was learning belly dance, which I'm still learning, and because I told you it's a gradual process, learning dance music, you have to keep learning more and more. So one of my teachers told me that if you are a practicing belly dancer, you should know your roots and the music. So belly dancing is not just about drum solo or dum tek dum tek. You have to understand its music. So yes, that's why I think you should like that you are teaching belly dancers and you are connecting with the belly dancing community. It's going to help us a lot.
I hope so.
Yes.
And it helps me too.
So
It helps the Arab music community too, because for a lot of people, um, belly dance, for a lot of non-Arabs, belly dance is a way that a lot of non-Arabs get introduced to Arabic music in the first place. Um, so it's certainly true in the US. Belly dance is much more popular than Arabic music by itself in the US. So a lot of people will not encounter Arabic music until they go to a belly dance show or decide that they want to take a belly dance class, right? So it might be the first place that people hear or think about Arabic music. So, um, and it reaches a broad audience. So to me, having belly dancers know more and more about Arabic music really helps Arabic music um, spread. So like the belly dance community, I have to be grateful as a musician alone to the belly dance community because you guys are helping to spread appreciation of this music. Um, yeah.
yeah, but though in belly dance, I feel like I met a lot of belly dancers. Not everyone understands, I guess, Arabic music. They're more interested in the drum solo part of it. Tum
Right,
tek.
right, right.
It's fast.
But I guess what I'm saying is that because not everyone understands the music, the desire to understand the music, I want to do as much as I can to help feed that desire so that the belly dance community is more educated, so that when people encounter Arabic music, they're gonna like belly dancers will make good repertorial choices and people will get to hear belly dance to Kulthum or belly dance to Nancy Ajram or belly dance
Hello.
to Hakim or belly dance to right instead of just so um yeah so I'm really happy to that's what I'm saying like by contributing to the knowledge of the belly dance community I'm helping to
To
contribute to knowledge about Arabic music outside of the belly dance community as well.
So someone is said bringing together two art forms is definitely very difficult, but it must be so rewarding to be able to do so.
You mean music and dance? Is that what the person means?
Yes, yes,
Um,
that's
yeah. I mean, it is an interesting experience to perform for dancers, um, and to watch dancers perform to my music. Um, I recently did. I contributed something to. There's a dancer from Poland, Dominika Sucheka, who recently did a Tarab challenge
yes.
for
I
dancers.
danced on your violin also.
Right. So I contributed a Taksim to that challenge, and there were many dancers who performed to my Taksim that I got to see. They tagged me on Instagram or Facebook, and just to see different interpretations of the same performance of mine was really it was really beautiful to see. Okay, this is I'm creating the sound, and this is how different people interpret it with their bodies. And it's the same with both with performing with dancers and also with working with other musicians. Because the experience of making music is you're creating something from yourself, but then you can feel how it resonates in another human being. And we get that experience in working in music. So if I play with a percussionist and the way that they create rhythm and I respond to rhythm, there's a synergy that happens between musicians on stage or you're playing the same melody and you both are listening to each other and creating something new. So creating music on stage with other musicians is magical, and I have a new appreciation for it because since lockdown, I've only gotten to do it like, you know, we've only really started to have live music again here in New York City just the last few months. So I have a new appreciation for that experience of performing live. But the same is true with belly dance. Performing with dancers, it's like someone is in real time uh, feeling the same thing and interpreting the same thing that you're doing, and giving it a different kind of expression. So then it feeds back to me. How do I respond to it? And then she responds, well, how do I change my note? Well, Sammy, change the mood, right? So how am I going to respond? And I noticed in the Tarab challenge, dancers were challenged by, I had a lot of long pauses in my taksim, and dancers a number of them commented, oh, it was an interesting challenge to work with silence. And to see what is it like when a phrase ends, and how do you fill the pause with feeling? And just those experiences are really rich, to respond. I'm still responding to what that person said, to mix two art forms. It's a very rich experience for me as a musician to be able to work with dance and to work with other musicians.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So, since we're talking about two art forms, um, dance is always related to music, right? And belly dancing is something which has its background and history in Middle Eastern region, Manat region, and though people say that it has it is from Egypt, I personally don't believe so. But anyway, that's not the point. The thing is that I want to know that whether belly dancing should have a basic understanding about Arabic music. What do you feel about it? Like, what is your view about it?
My view about whether belly dancers should have a basic understanding of Arabic music?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a long answer on that. Like, I think that the more dancers know about music, the more that they'll um, be able to respond to it and also be able to communicate about it. Because, like, dancers are ambassadors for
Especially for
music.
tarab. Like tarab
Huh?
is a tarab.
Tarab.
Tarab. Yes, tarab. I
You want
think
me to
I've
talk? Yeah, you want me to
yes.
speak about tarab in relation to dance or just tarab
So,
generally?
belly dancers, a lot of belly dancers dances on tarab, and tarab is all about moods. That
Yes.
as much as I know. So
Yeah.
for dance on tarab, if one does not have basic understanding of Arabic music, do you think it's justified or
I don't want to make judgments or say justified or not justified because I'm not about judgment. People can do whatever they want
okay?
with whatever they want. But what I will say is the more that a dancer understands the tarab music and hears a lot of it, the more that her interpretation of it is going to be real. The more that her interpretation of it is going to be embodied. So it's the same thing that I spoke about, those mood changes in jints that you hear immediately, that you recognize like that. That is
Yes.
also tarab. That immediate recognition is what tarab is. Because if I play Jins Rust and Jins Hijaz and Jins Nahawand, and you expect to hear Nahawand at the end, then when it comes, it's tarab. Because you're like, ah. And so the tarab comes from the knowledge that you already have about the music. It's not just an experience that's happening newly in the moment. It's the way that the music is making your brain resonate because you already expect certain things. So tarab becomes richer the more you know the music. And tarab, to say something specific about tarab, if you listen to Kulthum, one of the things that people will notice about Kulthum is that the same verse of the same song, she'll sing it 3 times. She'll repeat the same verse. And this is essential for tarab. The repetition of the same music, the same verse, she does each repeat slightly differently. She creates a different ornament. So the interpretation of the same melody and the same words becomes different the second time, the third time. Sometimes she'll repeat something 4 or 5 times, right? And that repetition with slight variations is building that experience of tarab. Like, oh, I heard it once. Oh, I heard it again. It's a little different. Oh, I'm hearing it again. And she just did something different to break my expectations. And that repeated listening builds that feeling. So for dancers who want to know the music, the more you hear those repetitions and hear the similarity and differences, um, the more that you're going to respond on a visceral level to the nuances within the music and the slight changes.
True. Yeah, Kulthum is one of my favorite singers. And yeah, of course, I love dancing to her songs. And she's amazing. I don't have
Yeah,
words for her.
she is. I mean, we could spend the next hour just praising Kulthum, and it wouldn't be enough.
Yes, like
Um, you know,
we'll be short of words. For me, I'll be short of words. Totally.
I
So,
love it when dancers respond Kulthum, and but there's a lot of great singers who have tarab. My wife is always partial to Warda and always argues with me that Warda is better than Kulthum.
who?
Warda.
Oh, Warda.
Warda is
Yes.
another great tarab singer who also
Yeah.
do a lot of things for dance. You know the song "Betwen Nisbik." Betwen
Yes, definitely.
Nisbik, Winta Maya. That's Warda. So Warda also has a lot of great tarab songs, even more so than the popular songs that are popular with dancers. And but I mean the thing is you can dance to any music because music always calls forth something in your body. So I've seen some dancers interpret Abdul Wahab and and really tarab songs. There's a famous Abdul Wahab song Ya Msafir Wahdak that has a little bit of castanets kind
Warda.
of sounds like flamenco, right? And I know
Yes.
dancers love it because it has that flamenco flavor, but it's also like a tarab song and it's a fusion song, and it's just wonderful to see people take that music and interpret it for belly dance. And yeah, I mean, there's so much great music to dance to, and music really can stimulate so many wonderful feelings to express yourself with. Yeah, see, everyone loves
Amazing.
Yam Safar. It's a great song. And Betwan Speak.
Yeah, both are amazing. Though there are a lot of songs. I cannot name one or two songs. There are many songs which I love.
Oh, now we're gonna get in the chat. Everyone is gonna label their favorite Warda song. Awesome. Um, yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of great Warda songs. Again, we could talk about Warda for a long time. So
One,
yeah,
I
I
cannot
love
name
it. I love
one.
to hear. When dancers are interested in the Golden Age repertory because I love that repertory so much. The Kulthum, Warda, Abdul Wahab. It's just such a rich repertory that I just love to listen to it. I of course love to play it. I love to learn it. I talked about the lifelong journey of learning it. I just love learning new repertory. So when I get to work with different singers or different dancers who want to dance to a song that I'm not familiar with yet or I haven't learned yet, then I get a chance to learn something new. It's one of the most wonderful joys that I get as a musician is when I get to learn a new song. So like my journey of Arabic music gets to continue by working with people and learning new repertory.
That's interesting. I am still learning, and I think we are towards the end of our
Yeah.
discussion and
Want to ask one last question? And
session.
I don't know if anyone in the chat has a final question um, before we go, or if not,
Yeah,
you can ask me a last question.
I have something. So
Yeah.
I want you to say something about your book, like Inside Arabic Music, so that
Sure.
everyone can be aware that of the book. And of course, I got it from Kindle, and I think it's available in both paperback in Amazon, and you can
Yeah.
get it in Kindle also. So
You
what can
can
one
get in.
expect from the book?
Yeah. So okay. So this is the book. Johnny Faraj, the creator of Maqam World, and myself are the co-authors. Um, And the goal, as I was saying earlier, is to create a really basic reference that people can use both as a total introduction and as and to go deep. So, like we talk about the basic instruments, right? Oh, that's backwards. Sorry, I'm not gonna. You're not gonna make anything. Um, so anyway, we have chapters on the instruments, chapters on musical forms, chapters on the rhythm. We talk about ornamentation. We talk about what are the basic Arabic ensembles? Like, what's the belly dance ensemble design as opposed to the Arabic orchestra design of Kulthum, as opposed to the Takht, which is the small group ensemble, right? So we talk about those ensembles. We list all of the Arabic rhythms, the popular Arabic rhythms. So it's a reference book. If you want to study this rhythm, right? So you have that reference. You want to look up all the rhythms. And then we talk about the tuning system. And then it's a reference again for the ajnas, where we have like a chart for each jins. Oh, you can't see. But anyway, so jins saba, we show the scale, we show a musical example. And then I think the most important part of the book as a reference is that we talk about a bunch of songs that use each jins and each maqam. So the book, it's useful, but the book is not useful if you're not also listening to music. And we list 300
Okay.
songs in this book because we say, okay, if you want to see Jins Saba, the following songs, I'm reading from page 221. The following songs prominently feature Jins Saba. Kulthum's Dor Huwa Sahih by Zakaria Ahmed. Sabah's Taqatik Ya Kawaini Ya Ali. And Marhabtain. The Moshah Ahwa Kamaran by Darwish al-Hariri. The traditional Aleppan Qad Skaba Ya Dumu al-Ain. Skaba Ya Dumu al-Ain. Skaba دعي وحدي ومجيبي حدابا. So we've named the songs, and it's the same on Johnny's website on Maqam World. He lists songs. So the book is great as a reference because we tell you, okay, each jins has these songs, but people are not going to get as much out of the book if they're not actively listening to the songs that we reference in the book. And but if you do, then the book is a great companion because it really gives a new view of how to understand maqam. We made it super accessible, so you can enter at any level, a total beginner, but even advanced musicians have been saying they really appreciate the way we communicate about it. So definitely, I hope people read the book. Let us know. People can buy on Amazon. They can also buy direct from Oxford University Press. It's available in Kindle paperback. Some people are getting it overseas, but I know not everybody quickly. But so
Yeah.
thank you for your interest
No,
in it, and thanks for the others who have been reading the book and telling us about it. So yeah,
it's nice. I just started reading, but now that you told me that there are songs, I have got my playlist. I'll be definitely,
yeah.
yeah, I've got my playlist
And
also.
I've been,
And
on my YouTube channel, what I'll say is on my YouTube channel, because I created these maqam lessons on YouTube where we sing call and response. I also have a number of maqam playlists on my YouTube channel. So if people go to Abu Shumez on YouTube or they search maqam lessons on YouTube, you'll find my YouTube channel, Abu Shumez. And then I have playlists. Just look on my YouTube playlist. There's a Maqam Nahawan playlist, a Maqam Rust playlist, a Maqam Hijaz playlist. So I'm creating these playlists to go along with the online YouTube lessons. And so like we have this whole suite of resources for people to use. So Johnny's website, Maqam World, my YouTube playlists, and the book all kind of work together if people want to have a deeper education. But the last thing I'll say is all you really need to do is just spend 20 years listening to Kulthum and Warda for, a couple hours a
20
day.
years.
Yeah, if you do that, you know, That's just as good
Yeah,
as reading a book
it's a very long
and
process.
better.
I understand.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you. It was lovely chatting with you. I really enjoyed the opportunity to speak
Last
about all
thing,
these topics.
Swami. So you are also offering classes, right?
Yeah.
On Yes, if you can just inform everyone about it.
Yeah. So the most immediate class that I have going on is I'm teaching a course in violin starting in August through Labyrinth. It's going to be 4 weekends, so people can go to labyrinthonline.org. I'm teaching a course in Egyptian violin. We're focusing on Abdou Dagar and Sami Shawa and Ahmed Al-Hifnawi played with Kulthum. And I have not confirmed additional dates with several of the dancers I'm talking with, but as I said, I'm going to be working on probably August and September classes. So people should follow me on Instagram. You know, everyone's watching this on Instagram. I'll be posting all of the upcoming classes on Instagram and Facebook. That's really the best way to find them. And like I said, I'll be working on a bilingual Portuguese, a bilingual Spanish, another one in India, probably hopefully this fall. Probably going to work with April Rose on another series of classes. She's the one who hosted me before. We talked about doing that in October. So I expect to have more classes aimed at dancers in the next few months, August, September, October, and then I also will probably do another class with Labyrinth for musicians who want to really dive deep. Um, and then just, yeah, it'll be on Instagram. Follow me on Instagram. You'll see everything I do.
Wonderful. Okay. So yes, that's Mr. Sami with us today. And as you have heard his music, he's amazing. I love your music, and I think everyone loved your music too.
Thank
And
you.
you can follow him on Instagram, and we'll keep connecting and learning
Wonderful.
with him. Do you have
Wonderful
anything
to
to
meet
say
you.
before we end?
No, just wonderful to meet you, Mika,
Nice to
and
meet you too, Sami.
yeah,
It's great talking to you.
yeah. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a good day.